TikTok, it's
Yay.
time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. Welcome to the Sunday Ranking the Tracks show. It's been exactly 1 week since we've been here live, Brad.
Yes. And we're here. We're ticking, talking, and we're ready to rockin'.
Ticking and talking.
Right. That's right.
Which one's top?
Sorry, we're a little bit late, guys. We're just again, we're quite busy with our mouths backstage for some reason.
Yeah.
Our catch-ups are getting longer and longer, unfortunately, so we'll have to cut them a bit shorter. We'll
We
get
need
on
to
early.
turn up. We need to turn up earlier. That's what we need to do. We need to turn up half an hour beforehand to get us.
Yeah, we can do that.
Stop that.
We'll turn up a little bit earlier, but yeah, sorry, folks, for being a little bit late, and we'll make up for it. We've got a good show planned. We've got some Clapton fans in particular here in the chat. Simon, who's going to do a bit of a shout out to you guys.
Yay.
Brad, we've asked you to do a special shout out to people this part of the world.
Yeah, well, it's in New Zealand and Australia. It's Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, yeah? Cheers. I'm drinking from my new cup that my son bought me. Dad of the Year. Apparently I'm Dad of the Year, guys.
They are. But damning with faint praise, but only Dad of the Year, not Dad of the Decade.
Dad of the Year. Until next year.
That's just me causing trouble, which I shouldn't be. Rifting, causing a rift.
That's right. Yeah. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, and wishing you all much happiness and good health. Good health in particular.
Good health.
Oh,
yes.
Good health in particular, bro. Good health in particular, and to dads who have passed. Rest in peace to our dads who have passed, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if it's not for mum and dad, Simon, if it's not for mum and dad, we wouldn't be here, would we?
That's right.
No, we wouldn't. Well, as you may have seen on this week we finally finished clearing out my mum and dad's house. It was something of an effort this week, because the problem is, if you've got a 5-story Georgian house, then you fill it up with stuff, and it's, you know, if you've got rooms that are 40 by 30, you fill up a lot. It takes a lot to fill them up, and when you pile it in the middle of the room, you think, God, this blocks out the sun. Anyway, so I've got boxes of books and stuff over there. I've got a lock up with furniture and stuff in it.
Yeah.
But it's all done.
Must be difficult, Simon. So yeah.
Well, we had that house. It's been a family house for 56 years. We moved there in 1968, and it's been the family home ever since. Clearly not my home, but it's been the family axis for the last 56 years.
Wow.
So, you know,
that's
lots of memories and lots of stuff, you know, that went on there. It was a fantastic house. It was a fantastic house to live in. We were very lucky to have such a big, you know. And my dad started off with his studio at the top of the house, and before he got a separate. And, it was an amazing place to live. All these people used to just come through the doors. It was extraordinary. It's like, you know, you know, all manner of people, musicians, actors, you know, writers, photographers. You know, you turn up and people would just turn up. My dad had this massive circle of friends and people, you know. But yeah, people just turn up. It's like, as a kid, you just get used to it. It's like, who are all these people? Oh, this is so and so theatre group, or, you know, oh look, there's John Paul Jones. You know, or it's like, you know, and you know, it was amazing. Norman Bowler, something like that. You know, kind of these people who just turned up in our kitchen. You know, you were like, there, oh look, part of the norm. So it's been still got loads of stuff. You get things like this. I've got one. Sorry, I'll stop sidetracking a minute. But I don't know if you could see this, but this is one thing. this is a book token from about 1950. Do you think it's still valid? Look at that.
Wow.
That's amazing, isn't it? Found it in a book. 27th of May, 1949. It looks like as well. And just to cheer up Andrew, look, this is another thing I found. It's called College Days, 10th number, and it's from Eton College. They are. Why have we got that? I have no idea why we've got that. It's from Eton College from 1924. See, and then you've got to decide what to do with it, you know. And there's loads of stuff. My dad got a letter from, in the days when the bank wrote to you. My brother sent it to me, a letter from his bank, Midland Bank, which is now HSBC, but saying, "Oh, dear Mr. Williams, congratulations on the new Richard Attenborough series, Life on Earth," which is actually David Attenborough. So they got the name wrong. They picked his brother and not him. But in the days when your bank manager wrote to you to congratulate you on earning some money. Oh dear, fantastic. So I've got books to sort out and all sorts of stuff. But, anyway, so it's been a big week in the Williams household.
A journey. It's been a journey.
Well, it is still.
Awesome. We got Carl in the chat saying, did Cary Grant ever pop in and say g'day?
Yeah, no, Cary Grant never popped in and said hi. He'd left by the time we arrived. He'd left Bristol. Yeah, Archie Leach.
That's Carl's sense of humour,
known round my way. Yeah.
I just know. Yeah. I know his sense of humour.
I know. Good shout. Good knowledge, that is. Cary Grant comes from Bristol. Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. Hold on for a second. So, hold that thought. So we got a show to do. So yeah. Simon's going to be doing a shout out to all you fine folks, and and then we'll who's going after me, because I'm presenting the show. So which one of you ratbags are going after me?
Do you mind going, Brad? Do you mind? Because I've had a big week this week, so I feel like third place would be good for me this week, if that's right.
No problem.
Oh, here she is. Here she is.
No problem at all.
Oh, look, Ellen, how you doing?
Good to see you, Ellen.
Good morning. That'd be good. Yeah. So weird. Well, good morning to Ellen. There's Jim as well. Morning, Jim. Derek Claxton. Morning, Derek. Jim's just shortened his name to Jim. Very impressive.
Cream
of the crop. Yes.
Cream.
Fresh cream.
Brett Zeppelin.
Cream.
He just keeps shouting out cream. That's cream.
Yeah, well, yeah. If there's anything Rolling Stones that we post on the channel, he just puts on the comments cream. Anything Beatles that we post on the show, he just puts in cream.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Dear. Well done. So good morning to Gretch Zeppelin. Morning, Gretch. How are you? Tony Bowen. Morning, Tony. Good to see you. And Ellen as well. Fantastic to see you, Ellen. Glad you could join. I hope everything's all right. I think that's everyone who's made your comments. Brad and me, we've made comments too, and the boss man.
Yes.
And yes, Carl as well. Although is Carl on Facebook, not on?
He's watching on Facebook because we're sharing the stream on two of our Facebook groups as well, Simon. So
that's a good point to bring up too. We do share that on Facebook.
Yeah. Cheers, bro.
Morning, Carl.
Yeah. Well, guys, fresh cream. Fresh cream.
Fresh cream. Interesting album, guys. So obviously what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to have a bit of an intro, a collective intro, go through and rank the albums. At halftime, we've got some picks. if you are watching on a replay, we do appreciate you taking your time out of all the YouTube shows. You've picked ours to have a look, and ours to subscribe if you've already subscribed. If you have not subscribed, please do. We've picked up a few subs, and the best way we can help you with your subscription, with your channel, is subscribe back. It's the best we can do. We do appreciate the fact that you guys are subbing, not only to ourselves, Simon and Brad, but to our friends, to Great Vanzini, to Jim, to a lot of people. You know, I get messages from people. There's a piano player who we've sort of reached out and touched contact with, a lady called Judy, who's picked up about 20 subs from the channel. So people have gone across there and helped her. So it's really, really nice, Brad, to hear that and see that.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing we ask you to do, is please subscribe to our friends and subscribe to our channel. That's all we ask you to do, Simon.
That's all we ask. It is indeed, yeah. But
Nice,
you know, as we say, it's very pleasing that people come and watch our channel, and you know, we get some pretty decent views. You know, get nice views. We've got nearly 200 on the Abraxas one. We've got nearly 300 on the Woodstock one. So you know, and Mr. Walton's Royal Enfield Classic 350 has got 500 views.
Wow.
Clearly, that's where the show should be going. We should do more motorbikes.
We've had a bad, well, we've had an August of rain, so nothing's been happening as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I might do a couple of little vids, see what people think. Appreciate it. So guys, we're going to be doing the debut album of Cream. So I've got a couple of little points here, Brad and Simon, that we'll go through. But just in my research and reading a couple of things in preparation, Simon, I wasn't aware of this fact. And it's interesting because one of the points that we were talking about before we went live was the current state of the music media globally. Compared to what it was back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and up until the 90s, Brad. And the reason why I mention that, and Simon will know this, I'm sure, beyond any doubt, that guy Chris Welch, who was a prolific and a really, really important journalist around this time, pushing the agenda of a lot of bands, Simon, and giving a little bit of the some of the scoops he was getting from some of the insiders in the music industry. But what's really important, Brandon, and I didn't realize this at the time, is that it wasn't necessarily the fans who were really, really excited about this future album. There were certainly, elements of fans who were, but Simon, more importantly, the music media were really, really chomping at the bit to see what these three guys were going to do. You know, they knew who they were, they knew where they came from. So if there was any pressure, it wasn't necessarily from the fans, it was going to be from the music media. Haven't things changed, Brad?
Massively. Massively changed. Yes. Not for the better.
Well, there's not really any print media anymore, is there? To start with, they've all gone, haven't they? I mean, Melody Maker, Sounds, The Enemy is all. They're not the august publications that they were when I started reading them. Back in the early.
Someone said to me not long ago, another musician I know really well, quite popular musician actually here in Australia, said that back in the 60s and the 70s was the golden era for musicians to get somewhere, and it was a golden era for music. It was just one of those periods in time where there was mystique behind bands. If you were into an act like Cream, the only way you knew about them was from what you read in magazines or
Correct.
What was it? There was no internet. There was no, this whole thing of the internet making you have to present yourself in a different way so the fans can get closer to you, so your super fans become part of your family. There was none of that back, and I think that in itself is a massive loss to the music industry, because looking at how social media works, for example, you need to interact with your fans to get into the algorithms, where you shouldn't have to do that. As a musician, you should be able to concentrate on your craft, writing songs, go out and perform and interact with your crowd in a live scenario. But social media, for example, expects you to. So all I'm getting at, imagine, for example, Led Zeppelin in social media area. It wouldn't have worked, because there was a mystique behind the band that made them bigger than they actually were. Really, there was a mystique behind the guitarist, the whole band. There was a presence behind the band. Imagine if Jimmy Page was going live every day on social media, talking about the albums and bringing people into his home and that sort of thing. It wouldn't have been anywhere near what Zeppelin turned out to be. You know what I mean? It would have dumbed it right down.
And it's precisely that point that you make, bro, that's really, really important here. And I'd like us to talk about it for at least another couple of minutes, because I think it's a very, very important point. The music journalist, the Chris Welchers, again, who played a very important role in disseminating the information with Led Zeppelin's first album that you just made a point about, Brad. So what's important is that you didn't have these guys offering interpretations about their music. They weren't telling you what the album was about. You were supposed to go and work that out yourself with the aid of Chris Welch's article, and anything other information, obviously, that you can get off the album cover. So there was a lot of responsibility on you as a consumer. You weren't, opening your mouth now and expecting some woke journalist to poke the meaning into your mouth, because everyone's too lazy to think about the music.
That's right. I agree 100%. And that's part of the point, or a big part of the point I was trying to make there is, back then you had to go see the band live to actually get close to them. That was the first thing, instead of getting close to them on social media. You know what I mean? Like trying to DM them, trying to get into their personal lives. The whole thing with a rock band in particular, imagine Cream having a social media presence and having to get on social media every day to push their album and this and that. It wouldn't have worked. Imagine the Beatles, imagine Deep Purple, imagine Black Sabbath, the mystique behind Black Sabbath, and then you go see them on social media and realize they're just normal blokes.
Exactly. That scary album. Yeah. That scary album you're listening to, and it's just this guy who's half drunk blokes. And he's falling around on the stage.
They're just normal blokes from Birmingham, just, that like beer and smoking pot occasionally, I don't know. That's just kind of like the mystique behind the bands is gone. And I do think the golden era, what my friend was saying, to get back to that, was this period of time, the late 60s into the 70s, was a golden era for musicians and music fans, because you, like football, for example, here in Australia, AFL's quite big here in Melbourne. It's like a religion almost. If you love the band so much, you flew the flag for that band. You were the ones out there pushing the act. It wasn't about how many followers you've got on Instagram or Facebook, like to get your record deal. It was about your fan base and record sales. Do you know what I mean? It was all about that. And this album in particular, when this came out, people got the mystique behind Cream. They're like, wow, and Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker. It's this super group. It's the first real super group. Let's be honest. So.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think that's where, that's why they caused such a stir, because Eric could cause a stir with there it is on our screen, the Blues Breaker album, and and they were you know, but as you say, that they wouldn't have been big musicians, particularly around the country. I don't think, Eric wasn't playing just stadiums and, with John Mayall's Blues Breakers. He's
Yeah.
playing pubs and clubs and things, So, you had to be kind of almost in the know. And as you say, they kind of hit the zeitgeist of that period and became one of the first, super groups, and started playing really big places, especially in America, things, and the Albert Hall here and things. But one of the biggest bands here when they, went for the time they were going. But they were at the beginning of that, that era, when rock music blossomed, when is the zeitgeist, of the late '60s, the Flower Power, Summer of Love, the kind of the post-war explosion of culture, creativity, and people breaking away from that, that black and white world of post-war and into the color world of, and I think, and also that division between people born before the war and the people born afterwards. The people born afterwards, 45, 60, you're 15 in 1960 if you're born after 1945, you're 20 in 65. It's, there started to be this divide between, the older people and the young people. Teenagers were invented and, young people for the first time had money that they could spend, on records and going to see people live but records and so you get an absolute taking off, I mean, clearly spearheaded by the Beatles, but lots of other bands too, but them spearheading it, but because the stars all aligned for that period, and this is the beginning of the great period of albums, when albums start to be taken seriously, taken over from singles. 66 I think is a crossover year between singles and albums, and and they started to think of them as art, works of art, not an album with a collection of songs, but works of art and things, and we've done lots of other albums on this channel,
Yeah.
that
Good
that
points,
pick, that
and
pick
thank
up
you
those
everyone
things.
for getting it and agreeing with what we're trying to say too, in the comments. And Tony, we're just going to do one little detour because I think Tony brings up the point, and this was one of the reasons why Brad and I and the Rock Professor are a little bit late, because we were talking about Oasis and the way the media have backfired, have fired shots to the reunion, and it's all because of a political position. It's politics. It's not talking about the fact that their first album, Simon, was one of the fastest selling albums in British history, and the second album was sold out before it was released, and went straight to number one, and they were eclipsing Brad at some stage. Sales that were up there with, can we say it? Are we allowed to say it? The Beatles, bro.
Yeah. Doesn't make them better
Beatles.
than the Beatles, but
no,
their sales were, this is the thing too. This is what I'm saying. Back in the late '60s and stuff, when records like Simon brought up and singles were transitioning over to albums, that was more of an album market than singles, and it was a transitional period back then in the '60s. Like, if there were more people into buying records, those record sales would have been even higher at that point. But that's just how it was back then. And then the populations of people started to buy more CDs when CDs were released than when albums were released, if that makes sense. Probably because more people in the world as well. So it's hard to justify comparing Beatles to Oasis and stuff like that.
No, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't making. Yeah.
I'm just saying that for the people that think we might be. We're not. We're just saying.
Yeah. No. I was just talking purely about album sales. you know, with their first two albums specifically, and
Yeah.
you know, the position that they've located themselves into rock and roll history. And and the way that the media have not embraced that. Well, what do you expect? Because it's not about rock and roll anymore.
No. The word rock band is a dying thing, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
So thank you guys for allowing me, Brad and Simon, to sort of, you know, take the intro onto a bit of a tangent. But I think the point that I wanted to make with you guys here is, you know, the role of the music journalists and how they were seen, and they were on the hierarchy. They you know, the good ones, they were up there. They were sharing the information. Stuff was being leaked to them, and they were part of a layer of people that were anticipating this band's album more than the average fan. I think, you know, for a debut album, Simon, it certainly gave them the foundation to go and do a lot of the other albums. Certainly the second album that came after this, which we've had the pleasure on the channel to rank, Disraeli Gears. But all bands have to have a beginning point, don't they? And Jim makes a very, very good point, and it's going to be part of my discussion in the intro about the speed. You know, one thing we got to remember, and we were talking about this a couple of months ago, the three of us and a couple of other guys that are associated with the channel, that I think a lot of people, when they listen to the Beano album and they think of Cream, they think of two distinct eras. You know, there is a dichotomy between the two bands. But as Jim has said in the comments, absolutely there isn't. One of the key things that you got to do as a Clapton and a Cream and a Beano fan is listen to the Beano album and then immediately listen to Fresh Cream. And you'll be surprised how Fresh Cream has a lot of elements, Brad, that are in that Beano album.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and the Beano album was released in July '66. This was released in December '66. There's only like 5 months between them. I recorded it with the Beano albums recorded it, but recorded and released in the same year. You know, it's it's a testament. I think that Jim says the speed was amazing. You know, that you know they were doing regularly 2 albums a year. You know, one Blues Breaker and then Fresh Cream is is amazing kind of speed of creativity and getting on with it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a remarkable turnaround when you think about it, because as the Rock Professor said, it was dropped on December the 6th, recorded according to Mr. Wikipedia, and I've checked that out with a couple of other books and magazines, Brad. It was recorded between July and November. So straight after he left, straight after the Beano album, basically, you know, it was just remarkable, you know, how they went from basically one band into this other band, you know, that we're talking about. And I suppose the key thing for us to talk about during the intro, you know, because I like to keep my intros pretty collaborative, Brad, is the jazz elements, obviously, that Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker have brought to this album, because it's not a blues album by any stretch of the imagination. You know, there are aspects of jazz, and we can probably talk about that when it comes to the tracks. But certainly a key component, Brad and Simon, and also some pop sentimentality as well, Simon.
Oh, completely. I mean, it is a complete sort of at the crossroads of rock, pop, psychedelia, and blues, isn't it? Blues rock. I mean, it is absolutely got elements of all of those, and I've made quite a lot of notes around those things, you know. And I think it's yet another example of, you know, bands just went and made albums. There's no preconception on what an album might be, what elements you could enter it, we could or couldn't have, or anything like that. You know, you just went and made an album, you know, and it, you know, as a progression on from the Blues Breaker album, I think it's remarkable, and I think it captures, use this word already, the zeitgeist of the times, that that brings all those elements in, and you can see that, it's very influential for the next, few years, that album, with the amount of influences and as I say, the mixing of all the different elements that I've just described, I think it makes it a really interesting album, really good one too.
Awesome. All right, guys. So look, I'm just mindful of the time too. So we might sort of scoot the show along a little bit. So I'm going to let you guys know, and I'm going to pass it on to Brad and the Rock Professor. We like to share how we first came across this album. Brad, I think my first real memory of listening to this album would have been about 91, 92. Certainly there were songs on this album that I was familiar with because, collections and greatest hits had been out for a while. But I think when I first got my copy of this, it would have been in the early 90s. And like I said to you before, with a lot of these Cream albums and these early rock and roll, psychedelic albums, you knew that you were holding something really, really important, Simon. You couldn't wait to get home because it was going to unlock some secret of the universe to you. You were going to be a different man, Brad, when you finished listening to this album. It wasn't like taking drugs or anything like that or popping your cherry. It was just all about the album, the vinyl, Brad.
No, all about the vinyl.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Andrew, that's interesting because this album came under my radar in the early 90s, early to sort of close to the mid 90s, with my discovery into Cream and stuff like that, going backwards from like this marvelous collection, 24 Nights, going backwards from there, and the Cream of Eric Clapton, that album as well. So going back and buying Cream's actual albums instead of just greatest hits and stuff like that, I put this album on, and I vaguely remember listening to this and going, wow, now I understand where hard rock and psychedelic rock come from. Like, that to me was a big discovery because I listened to hard rock nearly every day of my life. I did at that point as well. I listened to hard rock and blues rock. Probably the majority of my life I've been listening to it. And when I listened to this album, I actually had a revelation. This is where it's come from. This album is the making of hard rock and psychedelic rock throughout the 60s and 70s, really. This is where it came from, Cream's Fresh Cream album. So, because as we get into the rankings, we'll talk about the tones and the playing and the drumming, the bass playing, and the uniqueness of this trio. And I will highlight trio again. 3 people. It's not a 5-piece band. It's a three lineup band that collaborated and were all equal in my opinion, were equal in their creative input for the song. So no matter who wrote the song, when it came to the song, it sounded like Ginger Baker put all his 120% into recording his drums for the song. Jack Bruce with his bass playing, his singing, Eric Clapton, his guitar playing. The leap from Beano to this record is very small. It's like a small leap. I can hear, Andrew, you mentioned it in your introduction there. I can hear the similarity in tone, everything. It's all there. And this album doesn't get spoken about like Beano, which is surprising to me. It doesn't quite get the discussion point that Beano does, but some of the guitar tones on this record are so close, if not better, than Beano.
Yep.
But definitely this album was a revelation for me in realizing this is where hard rock came from. Hard rock, psychedelic rock, blues rock. It's all here.
Wow. Well, I have to say, it was an absolute pleasure listening to you just describe that
Thanks,
moment. You know, we do this weekly, and there are moments that that stand out amongst other moments, and that's certainly one for me. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, you know, it's
So-
why we do this, isn't it? So we all walk away with each other's opinions in our brain next time we listen to this stuff. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
Simon.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, when I started buying records in sort of '72, clearly that's like 6 years after this, and it seemed it's weird. It seemed like ancient history in a way. Then '66, you know, seemed like a long time ago, and so I didn't um, really sort of Cream were in the past because only, you know, 66 to 68. You know, and Eric had already done some, you know, he'd done Derek and the Dominoes. He'd, you know, gone on to have a solo career by that point, and so. I mean, I knew the singles on things. So I Feel Free and I'm So Glad and stuff. I knew those because they were still around and still being played.
Mm.
But some of I didn't really come across the album until probably the early '80s when I would have heard it, and gone back and started to investigate the things that I'd missed that were just before me. You know, of which Cream would have been run. So, you know, it's been it's only been a 45-year journey with this album, not a 60-year journey, or nearly 60 years. So, but you know, you could see. I mean, even then, you know, because I'm old enough to see the whole timeline of rock music and to understand where these things fit. You know, I understood the importance of it as an album and as a, you know, as a sound and what they were doing and stuff. You know, and you could say that, as you said, Brad, the trio is the purest form, isn't it? You know, most of the greatest bands have been trios. Most of them, not all of them, of course, but you know, Cream, Jimi Hendrix. You know, basically they have a guitar, a bass, and drums. And you know, a Led Zeppelin. I always think of Led Zeppelin as a trio. I know they've got 4 people in this, Robert Plant sings, but basically it's the 3 instruments. You know, Van Halen, the 3 instruments. You know, and it's, you know, and it's, I feel like you know, that's the purest form of the band. You know, clearly the Rolling Stones have always had 2 guitar players, and that is still a fantastic band as well. So, but you know, I think of it as being like the purest form of a band. The Who, you know, Townsend, you know, and then that what comes out of that basically instrumental trio. You know, singer as well, but so yeah, but they were the kind of the first to do it really like this. I think you're right. I think it's a groundbreaking, you know, album in lots of ways. We can get into it when we do the
Awesome.
rankings.
Rock Professor, do you want to do a shout out and then we'll kick off the tracks? And before you do that, though, I just want to make a quick little point to Albert. There are certainly, to my ear, Albert, songs that are directly, as far as guitar tone goes, from that Beano album. Not every album, not every track is, but when we get to talk about each track, hopefully, if we have a discussion there or something is brought up, it might become a little apparent to you. And we look forward to hearing what your opinion is when you go back and listen to the album after the show.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So yes, good morning to Albert, Arthur Parsnips, fantastic name. Tony as well, Tony Bowen, Carl, Mission RD 100, morning. Gretch, Ellen. So yes, we've got 14 people watching, so that's fantastic. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you
Jim
so much.
and Tony, Derek as well. Derek's around today. Not working or doing anything else, Derek. Well done. Got the day off. I did a shout out earlier, so but Jim, Derek, Tony, Gretch, Ellen. I think those are all up here, and Mission and Carl and Arthur. I think those are the people who made comments. If you want to shout out, just make a comment and I'll pick it up and do it as part of mine. Fantastic, but great to see you all. Thanks for coming back.
Cool. And Albert, one other point too that we have to bear out with you, and what Crappy Luxury has just joined us.
Morning,
Albert,
Crappy.
we're just fans. We're not experts. We're not pretending to be Clapton or Cream experts or anything like that. We're just fans. That's
100%.
it. And we're just offering opinions.
100%.
Yes, hopefully to provoke some discussion and some thought about it. Really, that's the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of a conversation with the Rock Professor during the week. Normally, folks, we do the British release, but we got kind of caught up in Spotify, which after about 3 or 4 days of us doing some research, we realised that it was the US release. So if you are ranking the British release, our apologies. We are following the track list that's on Spotify, and hopefully that'll become apparent to you as we go through it. So the first track, guys, is I Feel Free, if I'm free to say so.
Yeah.
All right, that sucks. Okay, and I'm going to leave some points here for my co-hosts too, folks. And obviously, we love to hear what you guys think about the tracks as well. We'll read those out when we can. Brad, what a groovy vocal. What a groovy vocal opening on this track. You know, and you've got Ginger, you've got the tambourines, and you've got the drums. You know, everything that Ginger Baker is going to be after this song is there. Just, you know, in those intro vocals. A nice little subdued bass going on, Simon. You know, the bass isn't that monster, you know, that Jack Bruce pulls out a little bit later on, you know, but it's there. You can hear it. But it's just, you know, subdued it a little bit. And then Brad, obviously, hello to the woman tone on the solo. This is definitely where we get the woman tone. This is not like anything else on the Beano album. And we've discussed many times on the channel what woman tone is. In fact, Brad has even done some online demos for you. So basically, it's just turning the tone.
Yeah.
Keeping the volume up and fiddling with your tone knob. Your tone knob is not all open. It's closed, and but you have to have, for it to work, you got to have the amp cranking for it to work. And he's probably using 100 watts in the studio at this stage. And incredible vocals by Jack on this opening track. Not quite, guys, not quite 10 out of 10 for me. It's a 9 out of 10. It's never a skip. But the woman tone is definitely the key component for me on this track. Brad.
Wow, great track ranking there, Andrew. Sort of a lot of my notes as well. I will make a note here. I have got in my notes, Derek, that this was released originally as a single at the same time as the album as well. So yeah, thanks, Derek, for reminding me of that. But I think with, like, say for example, I was to give an overall overview of this track, it opens up with that pop sensibility. I'll put it that way. Like, it's definitely a single. It's got that sensibility there that's catchy. It's got a catchy chorus. The a cappella sort of intro is memorable. You hear it, you know it straight away. After you've heard it once, you know that, oh, it's that song. Yeah, I Feel Free. You know it immediately. And it's definitely an excellent introduction to that Cream's unique tone, that sound of Cream, the way they had that uniqueness to what they were doing as a collaborative, the three of them. Clapton's guitar work, the woman tone, I've mentioned that in my notes here too, Andrew. I've said, hello, woman tone. You know, we welcome you, woman tone. I think Clapton's guitar work is relatively restrained here. And it's a fairly clear tone. I'll put it that way. It's sharp, it's clear, it's punchy. and it drives the verse sections. The solo is very melodic. It's still serving that pop rock vibe to the song. I think that the song is a deliberate attempt at being a catchy song. They probably, when they wrote it, they probably thought, this is catchy. Let's put the most into this to make it appealing to the masses. And I think obviously they did that. The arrangement is raw, like it's got a bit of an edge to it. Jack Bruce's bass playing I've got here, very melodic and providing a real counterpoint to Clapton's rhythm guitar work. And Ginger Baker's drumming is tight. He's got like a bouncing sort of rhythm. He's complementing the vocals in the song, which is interesting to say, a drummer complimenting the vocals. But John Densmore used to do that in the Doors around the same time, 66, 67. So there's these similarities that are starting to bleed into all these bands of this era. So they're all listening to each other without a doubt. The guitar tone, you know, going back to the Beano comment I made before, there's not a lot of similarity on this track to Beano, but moving forward into the rest of the rankings, yes, I'll bring those points up. But I gave this song also gave this song a 9 out of 10, Andrew and Simon, and never a skip. Almost a 10 out of 10, but it's hard to rank everything 10 out of 10. So 9 out of 10 and never a skip. So
Cheers, bro.
It's not that difficult to mark everything 10 out of 10. I'm joking. But yeah, I think that you covered most things. I think that the thing I'd point out, and digging a bit deeper into it, is that that the a cappella singing starts off with one part, then it has another part, and then it has three parts. So it's big start. It builds, you know. So somebody's clearly made an arrangement of this and gone, bah, 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 you know, and so you end up with three parts, and I think that's really interesting. That shows somebody's, as I say, got an arrangement going on in their head about how it works. I think the other thing I'd point out is that high single note piano, ding 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 ding, that plays in the second half of the track. And that single note kind of very high rock and roll piano thing that to harking back to the bit more of the 50s, which is only 10 minutes ago in this. When you're so, as you say, Brad, it has a kind of pop sensibility. There's a great melody, isn't it? And that a cappella singing, fantastic a cappella singing. You know, it's all, you know, it's in the days pre Melodyne and whatever else you're using to pitch correct things. There's no pitch correction, so you're just doing it live in the studio and you know, probably on the same track as well. I don't know, but I think, and I do think it's fantastic. I think the guitar solos are fantastic as well. Kind of, you know, suit the song, kind of quite sort of melodic and taking his on from the Blues Breaker album. It's different stuff. But, I gave this 10 out of 10, but never a skip, because I think it's a great opener. I think it's interesting that you know, that the original UK release had NSU, the next song, as the original opening track. So I think putting this on is you know, is definitely a plus, and so definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. That's one of their classic songs, isn't it? I Feel Free. Never a skip. Andrew.
Oh, awesome. All right, folks. So we're up to the second track, which was the first track on the British release, NSU. And there's famous quotes. We're not going to talk about it because it's probably not a good thing for the channel to be talking about things, but the guitar player is responsible for something that he picked up, apparently, according to the bass player, about the song. So go and check that out. Some great quotes there from Jack Bruce over the years with his interesting sense of humour. Written by Jack Bruce, apparently while he was driving. And like a lot of songs on this album, this is one that became the benchmark for long 15, 20, 25 minute solo jams, Brad, you know, over the next couple of years. And rightfully so. It's definitely one of the songs on this album that we're going to talk about that gives you that jumping point to go away and do some jams. Love the rhythm section. Again, the rhythm section is following on as far as production from the previous album. And I love Eric's background vocals on this. For a long, long time, Brad, I never picked up because I wasn't listening to the vocals, you know, back in the early days when I was familiar with this, well, trying to get familiar with this album. But if you listen to it, you can hear Eric again, you know, offering and distinctly Eric's vocals, and I like that. You know, clearly he's jumping on board with this project, Simon. You know, it's a little bit better than him doing rambling on, you know, on the Benal album. And what a solo, Brad! That fiery solo on this. I don't want to get into the habit, folks, of comparing this album and these songs to live songs. I promise I won't do it because it's unfair. We're ranking this album, and because of that, I'm going to give this version of the song on this album a 9 out of 10, and never a skip. And I'm going to pass it on to you, Brad, because it just doesn't have that drive and push that I'm used to. And yeah, so I'm still happy with my 9, Brad.
No, well, nice, and it's you. Look, it's a rocker. I think this song's a great rocking sort of song. It's got that sort of rock edge to it. Yeah, it's the lyrical content. You know, well, let's just say it's reflecting the lifestyle of a rock musician. It's got that vibe. Clapton has got a pretty crunchy, overdriven tone here, delivering it's a simple but effective sort of riff. It's propelling the song. The solo is fiery, it's energetic, it's showcasing his ability to combine the bluesy licks and everything with some rock aggression in there, using techniques like double stops and bending. And you know, I'm hearing, you know, leaning towards the tone that he was going for with Bino, but a little bit more advanced on this one. Like he's refined it a little bit more. He's pushing that tone a little bit harder. And I can just imagine what it would have been like listening to the tone of this thing in the recording room when they were recording. It would have been phenomenal. Because that's one thing I will say. Getting that sound in the room on a record is very hard to do. It's very hard to get that sound that you've got, you know, in the room and transpose that to a record. And that we know the mixes of these records aren't as good as what they possibly could be, because sometimes the rhythm track might be too far back in the mix and the vocals too loud. But I always put that down to an era thing. Like when they were mixing records back then, the vocals always had to be up front, the rhythm guitars and the rhythm section needed to be back in the mix a little bit. That was my only beef with a lot of these early records in the late or mid to late 60s. Going back to the song without deviating too much, Jack Bruce's bass, he's locking in with Ginger Baker. There's a very solid foundation there. The bass is melodic, occasionally doubling the guitar riff as well. And Baker's drumming is strong. He's got a backbeat. He's got very dynamic. Some quick fills going on. It's a great track, and I think it's an interesting track opener for the other version, the UK version of the record. I too, Andrew, gave it 9 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Simon.
No, it's the first thing that struck me about it is that chiming guitar at the beginning, and you think, which reminded me, and then they don't do it anywhere else, and they only do it at the beginning of this. It's just a little tiny little guitar thing. Reminded me of the Byrds. You know, you think, blimey, you got a bit of folk rock sneaking in at the front of this track. It's not a folk rock track, but just that chimey kind of almost 12-string guitar, but very chimey. So really good. I think this is also the advent. The other thing I noticed, and it's on quite a lot of, is that there are two guitars, aren't there? There are two distinct guitars on this. You know, there's a rhythm guitar track and there's a lead guitar track, seemingly. And morning, Hugh. How you doing? So I think that's really interesting that they've started to branch out into that. It's not just one guitar playing. There's definitely, as I say, more arrangements, more parts, more different things going on, and that goes with the vocals and it goes with the the guitars. I think that you start to hear on this, that Ginger Baker, that very busy drumming, lots of rolls around the kit and stuff. That's definitely not just keeping the beat, but much greater drumming complexity in terms of rhythms and what he's doing and things, and very modern as well in a way. So I think modern drummers play, rather than drummers in bands from the early '60s. That it's this is much more the advent of rock drumming, but with, as you said, Andrew, that clearly comes from jazz and that busy kind of jazz drumming and making stuff go on. So it's fantastic drumming, and I think the arrangement's really cool. You've got the drop down between the chorus and the verse to just the drums and the bass before it comes back in. And Brad, as you said, that pop sensibility. It's got a melody, it's got a tune that that really is I think a really important part of lots of the stuff on this album. Has that pop sensibility, and it's really interesting that that's part of the makeup of it, and with other stuff too. But that's a great part of it. I too gave it 9 out of 10 and never a skip. Absolutely not. It's a great opening track and a great second track. It's fine. Worked both ways. Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, Simon. G'day, Hugh. Good to see you, brother. Thank you for joining us. The next track we're going to talk about is a track, guys, that I used to skip back in the day. Sorry, bro. Yeah. I used to skip it, but then I sort of realised after a little bit of time listening to it, actually, that I shouldn't be skipping this track. A track that was written by Jack Bruce and his wife. And if you watch the Cream, one of the Cream documentaries, I think Jack talks about this song. So it had an effect on Jack as a songwriter. One of those moments that songwriters have. So for him, I think he realised that he had sort of reached a point for himself as a musician when he wrote the song, obviously with his wife. So, got to keep that in mind. I don't know when it was, Brad and Simon, when I started listening to the song properly, but my gosh, if you sit down and listen to it and listen to what Eric Clapton is playing, you're getting blues now. You're getting this is the first time on this album you're getting the blues guitar, and this is where I'm going to say this is directly.
I know what you're going to say.
Directly.
Out of the Beano album, and and for years never made that connection because I probably skipped it. I'd love to hear what Brad and Simon have to say, but please, it's important for two reasons. Obviously, Jack Bruce as a singer-songwriter, as a lyricist, more importantly, Simon, it was really important to him. But for Jack and Eric's contribution together, with Eric's guitar playing and tone, Brad, this is never, ever a skip anymore. And this is my first 10. This is a 10 out of 10. Brad.
Wow. I don't like how similar our notes are here, Andrew, because I'm going to have
Sorry,
to sort
bro.
of change a few things. No, don't be sorry. It's just it's great to hear that we're all on the same wavelength a little bit, which is good. We're not deviating so far away from each other, especially with this record. It's such an important record. But I put here, this is a wonderful blues track written by Jack Bruce and Janet Godfrey. That's his wife, isn't it? That was his wife.
Yeah.
So this song is a deep blues roots sort of sound to me. It's got that. Clapton's in full blues mode here. He's got that thick, warm tone. Lots of bends and vibrato, emphasizing on those. His solo is very emotive. He's it's just his little showcase on this record of his mastery of the blues and phrasing with what he's doing. The sustained notes, the dynamics, the tone, the sound. This could have been straight off the Beano record. The tone I've got here, it's like an extension of Beano. It's not like a John Mayall Blues Breaker song. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's anything like that. I'm saying the tone sounds like he's gone for that same sort of tone that he got on the Beano record and managed to get it very similar, but obviously it's never going to be identical to the Beano record because it's a different recording session. But he's gone for that sound without a doubt. I dare say, tonality-wise, to me, it sounds like a Les Paul. Shoot me down if I'm wrong. I think it is. And this is my favorite, one of my favorite guitar tracks on the record, guys. Jack Bruce's, bass playing and doubling that guitar riff. There's a lot of heaviness and weight in the riff and what's being played there with Jack Bruce's bass line. Ginger Baker's drumming. He's a creative drummer. He's not like a straightforward to the floor drummer, and he's using a lot of cymbals, hi-hats, and he plays atmospherically on this song, and it really fits the song blues theme the way he's doing it. I couldn't imagine another drummer trying to play this any differently. It sounds perfect. I'm going to double exactly what you said, Andrew, about skipping this song. Back in the 90s, I used to probably I felt like the song title, even the song title was a bit creepy. I was like, it's a sleepy time. I'm like, it seems a bit creepy. It's not sitting well with me with this song. But throughout the years, and I do call myself a bluesman, through life, you go through certain things and you start resonating quite hard with the blues because of the things you've experienced in life. And, to me, this track, the blues playing, the emotion, the feeling on it start to resonate with me. So it became one of my favorite songs on this record without waffling too much. I gave this 9.5 out of 10 and never a skip now. Simon.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you're right. It's the first thing, also in a blues kind of song, also 6/8 times. It's kind of got that waltz feel to it, which is great. It's got, I think, interestingly, again, you've got the double track vocals. You've got they sing the same thing, but you've got the double track vocals, and I too wrote down, the solo tone is, you could see Eric taking it on from the Bluesbreaker album and taking it into that, what we now think of as that classic kind of blues rock tone, isn't it? That every other band in the history of creation copied, got their Marshalls and their Les Pauls out, and I make a couple of small points. I think, I like this. I think Jack Bruce is a great singer, and brings the thing. For me, the lyrics are quite. When I was listening to it, and I just went back and checked it, but it's like it struck me almost like a nursery rhyme in a funny kind of way. It had a kind of that sleepy type. It was like it had that feel of that kind of repetition of being kind of a bit nursery rhymes. But that's true. That's how it kind of struck me. I think, as you say, that the key stuff on here is Eric's playing, isn't it? It's what Eric does, and you can see that sport over 4 minutes long, so different.
Bless you.
Ah, yeah,
Bless you.
my head's fallen off. So, yeah. So, and I think for me, that's the real thing, is to, and you've got the singing punctuated by the instrumentation in the verse as well. It's kind of that's how those things work in arrangement terms. Morning, Jonas. How you doing? Yeah, I don't know. So I gave this 8.5 out of 10, but I'd never skip it as a song. It's fantastic. Do we know Jack's
Awesome.
always going to be the singer? I suspect so.
Yeah. He was always going to be the singer.
Eric was in embryonic singing mode, wasn't he? He'd only done one track on the Beano album. So.
Yep, he was never going to be the full-time singer of this gig. Anyway, good to see you, Jonas. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
The next track, Brad, we're doing is Dreaming.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful comment earlier in the feed, folks, where our dear friend Eric Clapton makes reference to I Feel Free being the lead single off this album, making up for the dreadful song Wrapping Paper. So the song that we're talking about now is called Dreaming. And for me, folks, I've got to be honest. This band Cream and Eric Clapton in particular, very important to me. But we can't bullshit, especially when we're talking about these guys and their contribution. But this song, for me, just is worse than Wrapping Paper.
Oh, right. Whoa.
It's always a skip. And I've given this, Brad and Simon, probably my lowest score ever, a 2 out of 10. I can't see how this song contributes to anything on this album at all.
Wow.
Brad.
Well, this is going to be hard to follow. Maybe I'll try and redeem the channel a little bit. I'm sorry, Andrew. I agree with you to an extent, but I disagree to an extent as well. I think this is one of those songs that have gone for like a more melodic feel to the song. Obviously, very Jack Bruce. I can really hear his songwriting style, because it's got a psychedelic feel to it as well. It's got a little bit of a twist to it, but it's very pop orientated. It's written very pop orientated. Clapton's using a cleaner tone here than the previous song. Maybe a slightly more melodic approach to his playing and gentle patterns of strumming to support the vocals, really, instead of an aggressive styling or playing very bluesy. It's got a harmonic structure, this song, that can be overpowering, maybe. The melody of the song, though, is catchy. Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, they got a fairly tight rhythm section going on. Obviously, they're, by this point on the record, we've heard a couple of tracks that were like pretty good bangers, but this one, without the first track, like if you go to the UK version and it didn't have I Feel Free on there, this is what, 1, 2, 3, third song in.
Yeah.
Maybe not the right spot for this track, maybe. I'll put it that way. I think there's a dreamy sort of feel to the song. The lyrical content gives you that dreamy. It's almost like a lullaby, I guess. Going back to Simon's comments earlier, I gave it 7 out of 10 and never a skip. But Andrew, I'm not knocking you. I can see your point there, and I'll be honest with you. Probably back in the early days of listening to this record, it didn't get quite a spin for me. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll let Simon maybe redeem both of us, Andrew, if you can.
Oh, well,
Alexander.
Morning, Alexander. I think for me, I've not heard this for a while, so it's kind of, I mean, to me, this is like a classic '60s pop song. Isn't it? It's kind of like I've done a blues thing, I've done like a sort of more heavy rock thing, and I think it's entirely in keeping with this album that they do a lot of different styles and a lot of different things, and this is a tryout of that basic kind of harmony, vocal, pop sensibility song, really. And somebody said in the chat, and I agree that it had a kind of '50s vibe to it. The kind of chord changes and the way it was judged had a kind of that kind of '50s vibe, which is not far away from this. So, yeah, I think the harmony vocals are really good. I think that it's got that pop sensibility. It's got for me, the tune is fine, works well. It's got nice bass playing. Some Eric doing his sort of strummy chord stuff. I too gave it a 7 out of 10, but I would never skip it. I think it's an interesting sort of diversion into a style maybe they didn't really pursue in the future. But on their first record, when all bets are off and the future's wide open, it's you can do what you want, can't you? And that's what they did, including this. And I think that it takes on elements from some of the other songs, the melodic elements that we, pop sensibility elements, and it is basically a straightforward pop song, isn't it? Under 2 minutes. So yes, 7 out of 10 from me. We're never a skip. Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And appreciate Tony's comments here, and Alexander. Thank you for jumping on. New name to our show. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, Alexander. We invite you to. And Johnny Heartbreaker's in the chat. Good to see you, Johnny.
Yeah, morning, Johnny.
And I get the point that Derek's making here about it's more Jack than Cream. Yeah, 100%. 100% on that song. But I will take your consideration, guys, and the next time I listen to it, because it's on my rotation, I will. I promise I won't skip it, and I'll report back to you. The next track we're going to be talking about, folks, is Sweet Wine, and I didn't realise this, Brad and Simon, for a long, long time, that Ginger and his wife wrote this song. So I think I found this out probably in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. That Ginger was responsible for this, and that's an interesting point for me, because when you consider, and I said that we weren't going to be talking about live songs, but when you hear what Ginger does with this song on other versions, it's just incredible. So it sort of fits things into place for me. So if you're not aware of that, folks, keep that in mind next time you listen to it. Double track guitars on this. The Rock Professor mentioned that a couple of songs ago, I forget where. There's not a lot of double track guitars, but there are a couple on here. And what's really interesting, Brad, is it's no woman tone. But isn't the guitar exceptional? Isn't it just phenomenal, the tone that he's got, Simon, on this? It's just incredible. Again, sounding unlike what he sounds like on previous tracks. Phenomenal guitar tone, and again, you can see why this just provided them a launch pad, for what Cream went on to be really, really famous for. I'm going to give some space to my colleagues to talk about this track. Love all versions of this track, especially this recorded version, Brad. It's my first Brad score, bro.
Yeah, well, guys, I have to say, this song used to always get a heavy spin on my playlist of favorite Cream tracks. I used to make a playlist up and put this one on. And I haven't listened to this song for a long time. Going back and listening to this album this week, I just realized how much I love this song. It's powerful, builds, it's got psychedelic, it's got blues, it's got rock, it's got everything in it. It's got a catchy pop sensibility to it as well, I think. I put Eric Clapton's guitar tone, it's aggressive, it's sharp, it's crunchy, it's got rawness to it, and it's got that real powerful sound that I love on this record. The solo is fantastic. It's got some bluesy licks, bends. I love that psychedelic dual guitar solo with the panning. I'll put that there as a big point, like you were talking about, Andrew. And you know, influencing other bands to do this too. I mean, you listen to Black Sabbath's first record. That it was 69. Am I correct there? Or 70? Surely they were influenced by Cream. They would have been
Sure.
without a doubt. So that panning thing that Tony Iommi started doing, I reckon, might have been influenced by songs like Sweet Wine, without a doubt. Jack Bruce's bass playing, he's following the guitar closely. It's got a big sound rumbling under there. It's a great sound. Ginger Baker's drumming, as normal, is very dynamic. The toms and cymbals emphasizing the track. I think Clapton, with his guitar tone on this, has finally got to a point where, in the recording process, where he's worked out what he'd like to do and tone-wise and how he'd like to capture that sound. I think he because every time you record, you're not going to nail it 100% the same way you've done things in the past. It's not possible unless you leave your gear set up in a recording studio exactly the same, and you leave it, you don't touch it, use the mics. Like listening to, say, Pete Thorne, for example, on another YouTube channel, when he records his stuff set up identical every time. These guys didn't have that ability. They would change studios, they would record so quickly. I think what I'm trying to get at is, I think he started to understand what he needed to do to get the tone that he was after in his head. And I think he really captured it on this. And this is one of my favorite tracks on the record. I too gave it 100 out of 10, Andrew. And I forgot to mention the fantastic vocals and the way they sing together through the song really gives it that pop sensibility, makes it very catchy. So Sweet Wine's 100 out of 10 and never a skip for me, guys. Solid.
Yes, I think as you mentioned quite a lot of most of the things. I think that Eric's guitar playing on this is got much more bluesy on this than previously. I think and also I just to pick up on what Alexander said in the chat, worth discussing the overdubbing on this album, guitar solos and things, and again bouncing it down together so that our 4 tracks, because they're only recording on 4 tracks at this stage, and so if you've got things like that, you have to bounce them down to tracks. But
Yeah, good point.
the interesting part to me that I picked up on that when he's got those 2 guitar solos going on, one and the other, they're not harmonized. They're not playing the same thing in a different key and a different different octave. They're playing completely different things. So he's going to take 2 completely different solos. They're in the same key, clearly, because it fits, but they don't. To me, they don't link together with each other. Most of the time, if you listen to, I don't know, lots of those twin guitar bands, Wishbone Ash, Thin Lizzy, whatever. There's a lot of linking into what the other guitar player's doing, or people playing harmony. They play harmony parts, whatever. This is not harmony parts, as far as I could tell. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in that. But they don't. He's playing 2 completely different things, and they happen to fit the song. But yes, they kind of almost having their own space, but which I thought was really interesting, because I don't think that's normal in the way that people used 2 guitars. I think that's definitely not normal, and a really interesting way of doing it. Kind of that. No, that's true. No, they wouldn't. Alex, he wouldn't have been able to hear the second one. But it's still interesting that he played something completely different for each of the tracks. As you said, Brad, the multi-track singing I think is fantastic as well. Jack's really on form with this as a singing thing, and great drumming as ever from Ginger Baker. That it keeps the interesting bit, doesn't it? On a fairly straightforward. I gave this 9 out of 10, but never a skip. Another great track, and interesting, different from the last track. I think somebody said about it setting it up. The last track setting up setting it up for this, and I think that's a really good point. So, Andrew, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Albert. Thanks, Alexander. And we're going to we've got a couple of picks, guys, that we're going to throw up for you.
I think we've got one more track there before the end of side one.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, Spoonful.
Okay. All right. No picks. We're going to talk about Spoonful.
Picks them in.
The next track is Spoonful, and one of the longest songs on the album. Again, it's just a phenomenal track, phenomenal blues number. It's a reinterpretation by one of the greatest interpreters of blues music in the history of rock and roll. You're getting it here live in the studio, well, their first studio version, and they take this with a couple of other songs on this album and just turn it into just these great anthems on their live albums. Brad, we get the woman tone back on this.
Yes.
The woman tone.
Woman tone comes in on this track, and I think you mentioned it on the last song that we were talking about, and Simon too just mentioned it again. Clapton just going in there fiddling just with a tone, just a couple of dials on a guitar and on his on those amps behind you, bro. That's all he's doing.
That's it.
There's not a lot of trickery going on. Love Jack's vocals, Simon, on this. And obviously Ginger. You guys have mentioned Ginger and his drumming, but his cymbal work and the way that he plays those toms, it's just fantastic. Another great example of his, brilliant drumming technique. One of my favourite songs ever, in not just with this band, but just ever. And I think in my top 5 songs that I learnt to play, Brad, when I was a young fella. 10 out of 10, bro. Never a skip. And what a great studio version of a song that they just go out and unleash live. Only in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months after this album's released.
Look, Spoonful, I mean, the classic Willie Dixon song that everyone has covered, that is and who is a blues artist, basically. Obviously, diving deep into the band's roots, they decided to record this, and they probably recorded it because the way they've done it, it's got their own swing on it. And like you just mentioned, Andrew, it opens them up to being able to perform this live and extending it, improvising it, and giving it a completely different spin every night, no doubt, I'm sure. And you're talking about Clapton delivers like a really overdriven tone. It's got it's loud. I reckon they're loud amps. They're very loud the way they're recording. The riff, as we know it, the classic riff is very hypnotic. It's the same. It's repetitive, and allows for a lot of improvisation as well. You've got a fantastic harmonica playing there, along with the riff as well, and Eric's soloing on this is fantastic. There's the intensity there. There's a lot of fast playing, but the bends, the sustained notes, he's playing blues power, and the reverb that they captured on his guitar for the solo, especially, is hypnotic. It's phenomenal. Oh wow, just Alexander. The reverb on it is fantastic. I think Bruce's bass playing that riff, obviously creating that thick, heavy bottom end to the riff, and Ginger Baker's drumming. I love his. I mean, I haven't mentioned it much yet, but I love his drum fills, the way he plays. He's got that unique stylings, the way he plays, and there's something about the groovy sets on this. It's not a blues shuffle feel he's putting on it, because it's a blues shuffle vibe song, but he's giving it his own swing and that with the way he plays. And everybody knows Ginger Baker was a very unique player, very powerful player as well. And I think these three guys put their own unique spin on this song to make it almost their own. And for that and that alone, I've given it 10 out of 10. Never a skip, guys. Simon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that it's that 6 minutes 30. This is where Cream are going to go, isn't it? That extending the songs out. It's where the certainly the live stuff is. It's where you're going to go with it, and is a contrast to everything we've had before, really. And it is in sort of the heavy blues wheelhouse, isn't it? That spooky riff, down, down, and bang, which is a kind of very tremendous, spooky, atmospheric riff that they start off with. And I think you have the guitar and the vocals playing the same melody, and then you have replaced by the harp and the bass. And I think that it's a significant dynamic changes to have the harp playing. And I think Jack Bruce is a great harp player, and he does a fantastic job on this about playing it. I presume it's an overdub, not live, and record the basic track. But I think that it is fantastic, and you introduce it in the last track on side one as a kind of as a real piece of coloration that you've not had before in a track. I think it works really well, and I think they do a fantastic version of it. I think the lead guitar solo is a great feel, and very much in that bluesy wheelhouse of taking it on from the Blues Breaker. And I like the fact he does things like he plays the bassy, and then he does a bit of soloing, and then he plays the bassy again. So it's kind of like, so it drones while he's playing over the top of things. So it's worthy of note, I think. And again, that kind of drop down they're very good with the use of lots of bands were in this stage. Lots of drop downs, for dynamic effect. It takes take a lot of stuff out and then come back in again. But all in all, I think fantastic, and a fantastic track, great atmosphere. 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. Absolutely. Right, pictures, awesome. Dr. Walton. Pictures.
Cheers, mate. 54 Mac Dog. Good to see you. It's been a long time. Thank you. And Helene, thank you. If you're still here, thank you for popping in and popping off.
Popping in, popping out.
Thank you.
We'll just get rid of these comments. Thank you, Tony. Brad score. He's given it a Brad score. So where are we? Some pics. Okay, so early on in the chat, Derek made a comment about the record company not knowing where to sort of slot this band, other than realizing, well, there could be money at the end of the rainbow with these guys, so we'll sign them anyway, and we'll get them. We'll get them to look like Brad. They've been getting ready to rehearse for a Led Zeppelin 2 album cover. Or Eric Clapton looks like he's getting ready to go and race in a Grand Prix with those glasses on.
I love the album cover.
The aviator shade. I know. Somebody said, was it crossed between Biggles and something else? Fantastic.
Yeah, I love it too. I've always loved it. I thought it was pretty cool cover.
Funny.
Catches the quirkiness of the time, Simon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's kind of It could almost be any time, couldn't it? In a funny kind of way. It's not that time specific.
So these are picks from 66 and 67, I thought. So there's Clapton there with his fuzzy hair. So that's late 67. I probably shouldn't have picked that for us to show, but I've always liked that one there. And that's Ginger there hiding behind Jack Bruce. And Jack has got his Gibson EB bass, short scale, that he used to play everything on 10, Simon.
Is there any other setting?
No.
11.
So this is, again, from, according to the information that I got from 67. So, again, look at Clapton's hair. You know, it's very hard to sort of work out because you think with his hair there, and if you have a look here, so that's 60, this is early 67. So, okay, that probably makes sense. He probably puts fertilizer on it. This is 66, and one of the giveaways, obviously, is Jack Bruce there playing the Fender 6-string bass, the baritone bass. Clapton, again, 66, with his Les Paul. Another famous photo, 66 Simon.
Yes. Look at that collar. Look at that collar. That's quite something, isn't it?
Not bad.
Take off.
66, not long after this album's been released.
Pre-hippie phase, for sure. Short hand.
And 67. And the last one there's Simon, a famous pic there of Clapton and Ginger.
Yes. Notice how close they are. No, notice that they're right next to each other in that earlier picture where you have three of them crowded around, two of them crowded around the drums, you know, so they're within inches of one another. Fantastic.
Well, only a couple of years ago in those venues, those clubs that they're playing in, you know, the guitar player would have just had an AC30, Simon. You know, only a year maybe, or certainly 2 years. And, you know, look at that two Marshall stacks there.
Those are the days before sound men said, "Can you turn that down?"
And thank you, folks, for being with us while we flick through some pics. We're on to the next track. Thank you, Helen. Great pics. Thank you. Cat Squirrel is the next track, guys. Proto Steampunk. Oh, that's it. Absolutely. Besides being the first supergroup, Brad.
Yep.
These guys were the first steampunks.
Steampunk vibe. Yes. Brilliant.
Another first. Another first. Look at those Marshall stacks. Okay, Cat Squirrel. Okay. Brad and Simon, you got a collaboration here of the harp and the guitar on this track. Fantastic. And I have to tell you guys, Brad and Simon, I suspect a lot of people don't realize what Clapton's doing here on this guitar solo. I think, I've got a funny feeling Cat Squirrel is going to be a deep cut, and it should be our mission in the next few months to get people to go and listen to this track in particular. I don't think a lot of people have given this the attention it deserves. This is one of the tracks, guys, where it's right out of the Beano sessions as far as Clapton's playing. and tone sensibilities. It's remarkable to my ear, the similarity between what Clapton's doing on this and everything else on the Beano album. I just think this track is incredible for that.
Yep.
It's a Brad score. And because of that, I have to have Brad tell us what he thinks this track's all about.
You have to tell him why it's a Brad score, Brad.
Does that mean I need to change mine to a Brad score?
No, you don't
No,
need to. But
no.
But go.
You,
No.
you need to explain why Andrew's given it a Brad score.
I'll put here. Look, I'm backing up Andrew 100% with the Beano thing. That was something again I'll put here that is a big part of my notes. So I'm not going to double up what Andrew said there, but I'll back you up 100% with the Beano reference there, Andrew, 100%. I've got here, obviously, it's a bit of a showcase on this one, especially for Clapton. I put Clapton delivers some amazing solo playing here. It's got that thick, crunchy tone. The main riff, look, it's effective. It's one of those simple but effective riffs. There's a lot of room for improvising on this to showcase Eric Clapton's playing. The other instruments on there, obviously, Jack Bruce's, his bass playing. There's a lot of complexity there. What's going on? Ginger Baker's drumming. He's got a groove that like no other, and it just gives Clapton the ability to play over the top of those two guys when they're like, this is an instrumental track. There's no vocals, there's no melody, there's no vocal melody going on there. So Clapton, this is a big Clapton instrumental track for me, like showcasing Clapton in my opinion. Obviously there's some great harp playing there, some blues harp playing as well. So it's a definite. I put 9.5 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. I just want to quickly back up. I saw a comment there, so I'm just looking back at my comments. Derek Clacton said that in the Days for Overdrive boost pedals, Clapton clicked in a second Marshall stack. That is absolutely correct. He used to have two Marshall stacks. One was for solos and one was for his rhythm playing. So it would be like a A/B switching to get louder for solos and bring it back for rhythm playing. So thank you for bringing that up, Derek. That's a very important part to Clapton's Cream sound, especially live. That was how he pushed his solos live to get that drive. But definitely, sorry to deviate there, guys. So I gave it 9.5 out of 10 and never skip. Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'll just follow on from what Andrew said. I mean, doesn't the Beano album start side 2 with an instrumental? Doesn't it start side 2 with an instrumental? I thought there was I'm pretty sure it does. I haven't checked, but there's a couple of instrumentals. And this kind of made me hark back to that, that thing about having an instrumental on a couple of instrumentals on an album kind of thing. That seemed to be a thing of that period blues breaker stuff, isn't it? Because Peter Green had a couple of, and Mick Taylor as well. So
they're stepping out in Hideaway.
That's right. Yeah, stepping out. Isn't stepping out the first track on side 2, Andrew?
Stepping Out is the second to last song.
Okay, I may have got that wrong.
Yeah, I think. Hold on, I've got the album here.
Well, I think that that which is certainly that in that style of having instrumentals on here. What does it say, Dr. Walton?
Okay, so Stepping Out is track 5 on side 2, and Hideaway is track 2 on side 1. So Key to Love is what kicks off side 2.
So I'm wrong about it. Anyway, but the instrumental bit, not rather than kicking off a side with the instrumental. But I like the fact that it has, got the electric plays with the harp. So you've got that harp and electric playing. You also got I think you've got 2 guitars as well. You've got that kind of rhythm guitar and you've got the guitar solo over the kind of slashing chords, sort of on the offbeat, with the bass and the harp and the drums. So there's 2 guitar tracks going on there, and that's interesting. And I think that. But you're right. This is about back to the guitar and the harp playing in unison as well towards the end, and the harp being the lead out at the end. So very much a kind of, as much as a guitar based, a harp based song as well. So definitely, the harp carryover from the last track on side 1. We've got the harp again on the first track on side 2, which I think is an interesting way of doing it. I think it provides some continuity, and it's quite sort of bluesy, quite a bluesy song, and I've been doing that. So I give it a 9 out of 10. Never a skip. I think there's lots of interesting stuff going on here. Brilliant. Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Good night, Greg Zeppelin. Thank you, brother, for supporting us and joining us
Good night, Greg.
here weekly. Appreciate it, mate.
Tremendous.
Your support is always appreciated. Thank you, brother. 4 Until Late, Brad, is the next track. Eric Clapton sings this. It's a rearrangement of a Robert Johnson song. I read recently where someone said that it's Clapton's first attempt, Simon, at sounding like a pop star. Is he successful at sounding like a pop star on this? No. No. There's a couple of good things about the track, though, Brad. There's a couple. I see you shaking your head. There's a couple of good things. I love the fact there's an upright bass on this. Clearly, it's a slap bass that's been played on this. Got to be. I can't confirm that, but my ears are not lying to me. As I said, it's a Robert Johnson song, so go and check out the Robert Johnson version. And Eric Clapton goes on and makes a career, doesn't he, of talking about Robert Johnson and doing a lot of Robert Johnson covers and versions. Never hid that. And the previous album he did, he finished off the Beano album with a Robert Johnson song, didn't he? So he's just continuing that through with this new band that he's in. Like I said, I've read that it's supposed to be a pop song. It's their attempt at a pop song. I don't know. It doesn't sound like they've made it successful to me. Brad, I've given this a 6 out of 10. Sometimes a skip. Sometimes a skip, Brad.
Well, 4 Until Late, for me, it was always a skip back in the day when I first got into the record. I was not even aware that Clapton did the vocal on this track until much later. At the first few listens to this album on CD, when I had the CD, I was like, oh, next track. I wanted to hear the next song. I never really gave it much of a chance. Through the years of, deep diving into Cream over the years and really getting back into this record, especially this week that we've had to reflect on it and rank it, I've actually become a little bit more supportive of this track. I'll say that. I think it's a great vocal from Eric, considering he wasn't a vocalist at this point in his career. I'll give him that. He did a good job on it. He's got more of a clearer sort of tone, focusing a little bit more on his rhythm guitar playing to complement his vocals, maybe. Solo's a bit short and sweet. He not sure whether, thinking Clapton's brain, he was very traditional with the blues forms. He wanted to stick to the traditional blues forms. And I understand what you're saying, Andrew, where they tried to make it a little bit more of a pop song, maybe, or something for pop sensibility, and maybe for more, to get onto mainstream, with it. And there is, I put here, Jack Bruce's bass is supportive, more so than being over the top. It's complementing the guitar. It's not overpowering. I suggest it is a double bass, maybe, Andrew. I'm suggesting that as well. Ginger Baker's drumming is light. I'm thinking he's playing with brushes, maybe even on the snare. and I've just put nice harmonica playing, and I gave it 7 out of 10, and never a skip. I think it sits well on the record where it is, and it's previously a skip for me, but yeah, 7 out of 10, never a skip. Simon. Simon, you can't hear you, Simon.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry, apologies. No, in contrast to you guys, I really like this. I think it's just fine. I think Eric's got a bit of form in doing this type of song, isn't there? What's the song on 24 Nights that is a bit like this? Is it the Ray Charles song that he does?
Oh, no.
That kind of, yeah, and it slightly reminds me of Hot Tuna's Hot Tuna, Hesitation Blues by Hot Tuna. It reminds me of that. I've suddenly realised. So I love Hesitation Blues by Hot Tuna. So fantastic. You're my Calculator, brilliant. But so I think it provides a contrast with the stuff that's gone before. I think it's an interesting, it's still in that blues idiom clearly because it's a Robert Johnson song, but arranged a bit more strummy. Strummy acoustic thing, almost an acoustic thing. I can see Eric doing it later on as an acoustic type number. Kind of, like he does. He does those kind of, slightly things. But I think again, it's still got the heart playing on it. I like the fact that Eric sings over the chorus, but the third line has that harmony vocal on it. As a kind of that's a pretty nice piece of arranging. I think it's got great swing to it. I agree with Andrew. I think it's upright bass and definitely and brushes for sure. Giving it that slightly more swing. Nice harp solo. I'm an 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip guy on this. I like it. I think it has a swing and a kind of a vibe to it that I think is pretty cool. Myself, in contrast to Mr. Walton, he's hurled it in the bin from a long way away.
Derek likes it. He reckons it works. It's very poppy. It works for him, but he's also admitted that he likes wrapping paper. So I don't know if we can take
Derek's
much of
destroying his own credibility, is he, right?
Yeah. He said it. He's on record for saying it.
Leave him alone.
All right. Well, we're talking about reinvention. Derek is talking about reinventions, and that's exactly what the next track's all about, Rolling and Tumbling. It's a Muddy Waters song. Please go and check out the great Muddy Waters versions of this song. And again, every version that Cream has ever done on this song that I've heard has been perfect. It's a perfect song. And I've mentioned it before on a couple of other tracks, Brad and Simon, that the studio version is fantastic, and you can see where the studio version gave them that foundation. And again, this is one of those songs. What a frenetic intro, Brad and Simon. You've got everything, all the elements, that was crucial to the band for the next 2 years, all in the opening of this track. It's a synthesis of what's going to happen for the next 2 years. You've got the harp, you've got the percussion and the vocals, the guitar playing, all at it's like an upper pace. They've taken some uppers and they're just going for it. But I have to agree with what Derek said. It's a perfect interpretation of a great blues song by these guys. And they've done a lot of them, Brad, haven't they? They've done a lot. They've built a career out of reinterpreting, these blues numbers. This is a Brad score for me. I just think it's fantastic. I love all the versions. The band's on fire with this. Brad.
Yeah, look, I agree with you, Andrew. It's a real raw, energetic version of it too. It's got a lot of intensity in this version. I love it. I think Clapton's guitar, again, it's got that biting raw tone. The whole song drives, and that they really push this one. It's relentless. Clapton's playing is relentless on this one. The harp playing is relentless. There's a whole spectrum of urgency on this track. It's phenomenal. Jack Bruce's bass playing on this is fantastic. It's very rhythm, very rhythm orientated. I'll say that. I love his harmonica playing. Ginger Baker, his drumming. I mean, it just keeps. He's got so much energy on this track. It's got like this intensity. He's pushing the track. It's not like it's like a steam train. I can picture a steam train going, and that's where that blues impersonation of a train going along tracks, and he's pushing it like that. Look, I've got to be honest with you. It's not quite a Brad score for me. It's the first time I ever said that, but it's a 10 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the basis of Eric's career going forward, isn't it? Rolling something that, this kind of blues thing is I mean, it's not on 24 Nights, but there's a lot of tracks like this, and kind of this seems to be becoming one of the cornerstones of his career and what he does as an artist. So I mean, it's got that kind of. Go on, Brad. Sorry.
I was going to say, he's certainly embraced this song throughout his career.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and kind of the style as well. I think as well. It's kind of. So I think. Okay, I mean, I think it has that kind of unstoppable kind of train thing, doesn't it? It sounds like a train rolling along, kind of thing. It has that kind of unstoppable rhythm and unstoppable, and that energy that train keeps rolling kind of energy. I thought very much. I think the guitar and the harp together make good juxtaposition between, and I think for the first time I noted that there's a bit of call and response with the harp, and they've not really done any call. They've clearly done blue stuff. It's not really done any call and response up until this point. The second 2 tracks from the end, kind of thing. 2 tracks from the end. So that's cool. I tell you, one point of interest is that Jack Bruce sings it in a kind of cod black accent at the beginning. Did you catch that? The first verse is like very kind of odd. It just sounds odd to sort of modern ears. That, but he doesn't do it he does it less in the later verses. But that first verse is. So you get away with that now. Maybe you would, but it'd make me smile. That proper 60s thing. It's a fantastic version of it. I think, as you say, Andrew, it's not. It's if it was Muddy Waters, it would definitely be a Brad score. But this is only a 10 out of 10 and never a skip score from me. But it's a fantastic version of it, and it has that energy and that drive that I think, that's brilliant, and thus make the song for me. Andrew.
Yeah, well, yeah, and obviously some of the live versions that they do later on, of this song are just incredible. Clapton's playing a Firebird, and that ES 335, and he's just got those Marshalls cranked. Yeah.
Marshall, baby.
Phenomenal. The next track, I'm so glad. I've always loved this track. I've loved it. This is where they are completely successful with that pop vibe, with the pop sensibility that we've been talking about. To my ear, that they've been trying to get. They've managed to nail it with this song for me. I'll never forget the first time hearing it. I just thought it was a special song. The way that they sing, it's a cool up tempo version of well, it's not in the up tempo version of Skip James's version, but it's an up tempo version of a pop song, of what a pop song should be for my ears. Eric's guitar with the reverb, and we were speaking about that a little bit earlier. I think we had who was one of the new guys in the chat,
Arthur was saying.
Arthur,
Yeah.
described how they get the reverb by miking away from the cabinets. Is a crucial piece of information. That's exactly what they did, and you get that on this track, Brad. You know, lovely reverb. Again, the guitar's sounding unlike any other track previous to it, and you've got classic Ginger Baker drumming on this. It's just phenomenal. I'll give you guys a bit of a chance to talk about it. Again, I love all the versions of this song, Brad and Simon. Love the 2005 reunion version. They opened up that tour with this song, didn't they? You know, and they just, and we've ranked that, folks. If you go back and have a look on the channel, we've got a proper playlist of Clapton and Cream albums set up. So if you want to go and hear what we had to say about that, Brad, I've given this 10 out of 10. I just love the song. I just puts a smile on my face when I hear it.
Andrew, can I say I'm so glad that you gave it 10 out of 10?
Hey!
Hey, boom.
Oh, I know. Me wrote that down 3 days ago, didn't you, Brad? I'm doing it. I've written it down. Script.
I surprise myself when I come up with these things, I tell you, off the cuff. Now, listen, this track is one of my favorites on the record, and Simon, this well and truly debunks your second last song theory, so I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. It's not a theory anymore.
we keep having this come up all the time, and I have to say, you know what I mean? So much for your theory, Simon. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, this is me tearing up the theory. Okay,
throw it away. Look, this is this became obviously one of Cream's most famous tracks, I think, live. There's some fantastic live versions of this, like Andrew's alluded to. I'm going to say Clapton uses what I consider to be his greatest guitar tone up at this point, to this point of his career on this song. I think this tone surpasses the Beano tone. I think it's everything that Clapton's been trying to get to this point in his career. He's trying to get the sound. Sorry? Was that Andrew?
You nailed it. Exactly.
This is exactly been trying to do all through Beano and all through this record. He's finally got it with I'm So Glad. And we're so glad, Eric, that you finally got this tone too, because it's phenomenal. And that tone, it's just infectious, his guitar sound. His guitar work is phenomenal in this track. There's rapid fire playing. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Dynamics, the single note runs, the chordal stuff. Clapton shows his blues bends, a lot of his vibrato. I have to say, another point of this song that's a really highlight for me is the great vocals. Jack Bruce's vocals on here. This is his best vocal on the album for me, without doubt. And the BVs giving that classic psychedelic sort of BV going on during the choruses and everything like that. Jack Bruce's bass playing with his counter melodies, Clapton's guitar. There's a lot of complexity going on there, and Ginger Baker's drumming is tight, energetic. The tempo, he's keeping that tempo and rhythm very steady, even though it's brisk, and there's a lot of excitement going on there from Ginger Baker on the drums. This for me is 100 out of 10 and never skip, guys. It's one of my favorite Cream tracks, without a doubt.
Good.
Simon.
Awesome.
Yes, couldn't agree more. It's one of their classic tracks, isn't it? It's it's absolutely right up there. I agree with you, Brad. I think the vocals with the harmony singing is fantastic, and the contrast with single voice and then the harmony singing, I think is great. I agree with Derek that the solo is kind of sort of melodic, really has a melody to it and a kind of soaring quality to it. It's not just, it does have a bluesy feel, but it's it's not quite that sharp kind of, punchy blues thing that Eric does on other tracks on here. It's slightly different to that, and I think that gives it a cool vibe, cool different feel to it. It's not completely. I like the fact that it stops at 2 minutes 22 and goes back to the beginning, goes back to the opening. That's really cool. Nice piece of just dynamics, and build it up, then stop it, and then and then you come back in with the vocals, and as you say, the harmony stuff, and then the really nice, really good a cappella singing at the end, where they just sing on it. I don't know, it's just all Jack, but they're singing on their own without any instrumentation. I think it's got a perfect marriage between blues and that pop, with that pop sensibility. I think they never did it better. I too am a Brad scoring it 100 out of 10. Completely never a skip. I think it's a fantastic thing.
Simon, thank you for mentioning the stop in the middle, because I forgot to mention that.
Yeah. Well, I did. That's why I'm here to sweep up for the odd crumbs.
Yeah, it's a great song. Go and check it out, folks. All the versions. So the 2005 version especially is a really, really good interpretation of their song. They nail it. They just not an easy song to play.
No.
Nope.
What a great song. And Derek, yes, the Goodbye version is stunning. The live version. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Oh, great album.
Yeah. Mr. Walter's got the grapes.
Wouldn't you think that would be I'm jumping ahead here, guys, but that would have been the most epic last song for the album, I reckon.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andrew.
Yeah. 100%. Because we get towed, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where the rock drum solo is born. If you want to know why,
much to be blamed for.
if you want to know where and how and why all the drummers through the late 60s and right through the 70s were doing their 10-minute drum solos, admittedly, giving their band members an opportunity to go and have a smoke, a ciggy, a beer, a joint, or whatever, Brad, whatever they were, or if it was Van Halen, they were going downstairs and rendezvousing with fans, weren't they? During the drum solos. So
let's just say they were keeping the fans happy and maybe themselves.
Yeah. So it's very rock and roll. Drum solos are very rock and roll. If we can give you one thing from watching the three of us, if you can go away with the knowledge, knowing that a drum solo is all about rock and roll, we've done well.
Yes.
Look, I've spoken to drummers over the years. I have a drummer that comes into my work on a regular basis, and we talk about drumming, and I get some insider information, Brad and Simon, from him, when we were talking about drums and drumming, and he rates Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater as one of the greatest modern drummers, and the reason why, the simple reason is because drummers have to be able to hold time. And, Ginger Baker is definitely one of those drummers. It's a showpiece for Ginger Baker. It's a showpiece for drummers after this album, isn't it? There are some interesting live versions of this song for you to go and listen to if you want to. It's a rite of passage for Cream fans to go and do that. You must do it. You have to do it. Whether you're going to do it regularly is up to you. If they're going to be on your playlist, it's entirely up to you. There's no rule, Brad or Simon, that you must have Toad on your playlist. There's no rule.
Yeah, I got a rule about drum solos. They're not on my playlist.
It's an interesting piece of drumming, and it influenced, seriously though, guys, from the research that I did and speaking to my mate, you know, it influenced a generation of like how we guitar players, it inspired drummers who were drumming in the garage, Brad. You know, so from that point of view, it did well. From my point of view, as a music fan, it's very hard for me to sit and listen to drum solos on a regular basis. It's not my favorite thing to do. I'm going to give this 7 out of 10. I probably sometimes would skip it. I would probably sometimes skip it because I don't get a lot from drum solos, guys. I can't bullshit you. And I'm going to pass it over to Brad and Simon because I might dig myself into a hole and not get out of
it.
Look, there's nothing wrong with what you said, Andrew. I mean, Toad is definitely a centerpiece, featuring obviously Ginger Baker. That's his show centerpiece. He's the focal point of the song. I mean, it's a pretty cool sort of rhythmic sort of riff, you know, and framework for him to go explore himself on the drums. I will back up Derek Clacton there. I'm sorry, I'm just reading your comments. Were very jazz thing. Yeah, Buddy Rich, all these guys were doing drum solos, but it was definitely not a pop rock thing. There was never really a pop rock or a rock band doing it. Let's be honest. And so we do have Cream to blame for the big extended drum solo in rock music, I reckon. You know, you got things like Moby Dick on Zeppelin 2. The list goes on. There's a Rat Salad, Black Sabbath. I think it was Rat Salad. There's a drum solo, Bill Ward. All these guys were heavily influenced by Buddy Rich and a lot of those jazz swing guys as well. But this in itself, you know, it's a album closer. I don't know about that. I don't know if it should have been an album closer. But where do you put a drum solo on a record? That's a hard one. Maybe second last song. Maybe a second last song to put Simon's Theory back to play. I don't know. Look, I sometimes skip this track, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it deserves it because of Ginger Baker's drumming. And I don't mind a drum solo every now and again, but I definitely wouldn't have this in a playlist. If an alien came to planet Earth and they wanted to hear a Cream song, I'd put I'm So Glad on. I wouldn't put Toad on, put it that way. But 8 out of 10, and God bless Ginger Baker. Simon. Have we got Simon? Is he frozen on us?
He might be. You know how we fooled him a couple of weeks ago? He might be fooling us. Don't buy into it, bro. Don't buy into it. No, he's frozen. So when he comes back, we're going to pretend, all right? We're going to do what we did the last time. We'll just be. 100%. We just.
That was the best part of the show, Andrew.
I know.
Can you boot him out so he has to come add himself back in?
Yeah, I'll have to.
Boot him out.
Here he comes. Hold on.
Sorry about that. Spinning wheels of doom all of a sudden. So what'd you give it? Stop that, you bloody.
I blew it, Andrew. Sorry.
Oh, you didn't. I thought those bastards, they're bloody keeping still. They're just winding up again. Yes, I remember last week, you scurvy wretches. That was fantastic. Nice one.
We tried. I think we got you for a little bit.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was like 2 seconds of me going, am I stuck? Wait a minute. They're pulling my leg again.
We like to have a bit of fun.
Oh, dear. So
I gave it 8 out of 10.
8.
So
Good work. Well, yes. I agree with it, with Andrew. I think this is the template on which all other rock drum solos, isn't it? And you know, it's got the chord and that riff at the beginning that's very kind of, you know, Moby Dick has exactly the same thing to it.
yeah.
Clearly, well, I'm not saying they did get it, but clearly seems to be a link there. You start with a bit of instrumentation, a bit of drums, and then the drums kind of take over and do it. And I mean, it's a great drum solo, and it's got all that elements of jazz in it and stuff. It's definitely taking it from the jazz guys that you've mentioned. I absolutely agree with that. You know, it's got great sense of dynamics, and you know, so it's it's a fine drum solo, but it's a drum solo. And I don't know. No, I don't know. It feels. I mean, it's not that long, so it's, you know, it's fine. But to me, it's 5 out of 10 from me, and I sometimes would skip it if I wasn't feeling in the mood. I think I've got to be in the mood for even a 2.5-minute drum solo. Really, is I've got to be in the mood for it more than that. I'd like to say that the guitar has a great sound to it, and I like the sort of feedback stuff that he does near the beginning of things. So I think it sounds fantastic, the guitar, and kind of makes it. But yeah, it's you know, there isn't anything wrong with it. It's just that it's just my personal drum solo thing. But it's not. That's nothing against its playing or its, you know, its technical skill or anything like that. It's just, yeah, for me, it's a 5 out of 10, and sometimes I would skip it, to be honest.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it, Simon. So after this album was released and it got into the hands of the public, and we were talking about it at the beginning of the show, how especially the journalists, the established and the informed rock journalists, were really sort of hanging out for this album. The anticipation was quite high. This was pretty good, Brad, because it reached number 6 in the UK charts. Which did pretty well, and it charted the following year in UK in the US quite high, and gave them the template and the momentum. I'll bring the rock professor back in. Gave them the template and the momentum, and also the support from Atlantic Records to go to the US, Simon, to record Disraeli Gears, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah. Sure is. Yeah.
But this is still a great record, isn't it? It's still, as I said at the beginning, it still has, you know, the elements that he took from the Blues Breakers, but mixing it in with the pop elements, with, you know, the jazz things that are Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce bring, the melody, you know, the beginnings of psychedelia. I think, you know, that as that kind of melting pot of, you know, experimentation this album is, but also the signpost that it has to, you know, particularly Eric's career in terms of taking those blues songs and updating them and playing them and things. It's got all the elements, doesn't it, of what he built his career on.
100%.
100%. And is it a masterpiece? In my opinion, no, it's not. Is it a great record? Yes, it is.
Yes.
You know, and I think the three of them would have been, Brad, pretty happy with the results of this album. And like we said, you know, there's about 4 songs on this album that went on to be huge hits for them in their live sets. You know, so yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew. Sorry, mate.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying I'm glad that we got a chance to do Cream's first album.
Well,
I'm glad.
I'm so glad you picked it, Andrew. No, I'll go as far as saying I think I can hear when you do your homework with this record and how closely we've worked with the Beano record, you can hear Clapton was aiming towards doing something like this record in his head when he was recording Beano. That's my observation. And moving forward with Cream, he just progressed and progressed. Obviously, his tone, his sound, everything became part of Cream. You know, like that tone that he used, especially live. Marshall tone, the big guitar sound, the predominantly the Gibson tone, like that Gibson Marshall tone. He really pushed that, and obviously there was fuzz, there was wah, there was things he was using at the time as well to emphasize that. But I do believe that this was, I guess, a blueprint for Clapton for the next 3-4 years. This Beano, this one, and then moving forward, that was Clapton's sound.
Oh, correct. And one thing before we flick it over to the Rock Professor too, that I'd like to remind folks, and we've spoken about this many times on the channel, the Making Classic Albums, Disraeli Gears, where they talk to Ginger, Jack and Eric, about the songs on Disraeli Gears. And one of the key things that Clapton speaks about, and he, he got humble, around the early 2000s, and he renegotiated his past and spoke about his past in more respectful terms, Brad and Simon. But he talks about, the time that he had with these guys, Ginger and Jack, how important they were to him as a musician and a guitar player and a band leader, Simon. Key things that he needed to do himself, and it came from his experience with these guys. And they looked at him too as an equal. They were all equals too, weren't they, Brad?
100%. You talk about a band of equals. You couldn't have replaced any of them to continue Cream. Like Zeppelin, the minute that John Bonham passed away, you couldn't imagine Zeppelin continuing with anyone else but John Bonham. That was the same with Cream for me. That those three guys had a cohesive chemistry that was remarkable, and this is for their debut album. They'd only just really got together and released this record of songs, and in that short time frame that they were together, they played phenomenally well together. It was just something cohesive there. It was amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. As I said, I think it's a real signpost album for me, and a signpost, where Clapton particularly took his career in the future and kind of thing, different areas that he explored and influences and things. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great album, and I've been.
No, I really enjoyed this one, and thank you, Ian, for picking.
No problem. I'm looking at the time, guys. We're going to wind it up very shortly because we've gone over 2 hours, and that was our fault partially. And we also had a great intro. But you're right about the point. Keith Moon would, if Ginger left, Keith Moon couldn't have played with this band. Paul McCartney couldn't have come in and played bass on this band.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. There's no way anyone could come in and, people talk about, like, say, guys like John Bonham being the greatest drummer ever, and there's no way John Bonham could have come into Cream and made it sound any better. No, Ginger, Ginger was the drummer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I will just quickly say I've just been looking back at some of the marvelous comments we've been getting by our people in the chat tonight. Tony Bowen mentioned something about the T-shirt. I bought this T-shirt at Albert Hall this year when I watched Eric Clapton there. So it's a cool T-shirt. Yeah, it's very cool. I like this one.
Hey.
It goes. You got it, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of and I just wanted to thank everyone in the chat for their wonderful contribution, because you brought up some wonderful points that we may not have actually.
Lots of really cool information. Arthur particularly. Yeah, but great, fantastic.
And thanks, Derek.
As ever.
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks, Derek, too. Go and listen to the Beano album and this album continuously, and you'll be. Yeah. I think that the distinction that we all had is we looked at the Cream era completely different, and we had that mental demarcation. Well, I certainly did. There was a mental. Every time I went to listen to this album, I didn't make any relationship or any connection to the Beano album until obviously we were talking about it and realised, because when we did that, we did a show, didn't we, talking about the Beano album recently, didn't we, about the 58th anniversary or something like that of it. Off air, and we thought, I think we realised there was a strong connection.
It's even more apparent after this week of really doing the investigating and analysis of this record again, Andrew. You know, when we deep dive these records like this, some points become apparent to us that we might not have thought of for 20 years or 30 years.
One thing before we go, guys. So what do you think about Ginger Baker? We've said this before, but I just want to remind people, one of the greatest compliments Ginger Baker ever made about Eric Clapton, he said that Eric Clapton was great. He said he was fantastic. He was incredible. And the guy said, why? And he said, Eric Clapton was one of the few guitar players of our era who had timing, Simon. He had perfect timing.
That's interesting, yeah. I know what he means. I've heard that said about Clapton before, that, you know, I think Joe Bonamassa talked about in terms of every phrase is right, it's in time, on rhythm, you know, and fits absolutely perfectly with whatever you know, tempo and rhythm the song is doing. And I think it was Bonamassa, but certainly I've heard that it couched in very similar terms, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, then he goes on to say he's not a blues guitar player, he's a jazz guitar player, and he doesn't know it.
Yeah,
maybe.
But
blues, jazz, blues.
Eric Clapton, when you're watching this back, because I know you watch our channel, even though you don't join us in the chat. Eric, when you're watching this, please, I know you love the Strat, and we love you playing a Strat, but please just dust off the Les Paul every now and again, and a Marshall. That'd be marvelous.
And Eric, come and join us. Come and do a live stream with us. Don't go and do a show with that guy. Don't go and do a show with that guy, the Music Observer. He doesn't even allow people to leave comments on his channel. What kind of guy runs a YouTube channel where you can't make comments? We've said this before. If you can't allow people to make comments on your YouTube channel, well, what are you hiding?
That's funny. Yeah. But as I say, I think Eric should come on and you should come on out and rank one of your own albums. See what you think about it.
Eric, you can pick it.
You can pick an album, Eric. Yeah, we'll go with whatever you want.
Old sock.
I was just about to say that.
Well, maybe there are limits.
No, look, even if Eric could come on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to have a bit of a chat, that would be amazing. Just to talk about, you know, the British electric blues scene and the explosion of that and how it all sort of came to fruition, and that would be amazing.
Yeah, we could berate him for his lack of Les Paul use.
That would be right at the end. I'd be like, "Come on, Eric. I know you're endorsed by Fender and you get signature models, but I'm sure Gibson would make you a Les Paul signature model as well that you could play. You could put some, you know, dB boost on it and stuff like that. No problem." Anyway,
yeah, me too. Me too, Derek. Yeah. Me too. I'd always thought of it in isolation. You're absolutely 100% right, and I think we're doing it a disservice. But anyway, Brad's got Father's Day stuff to do, so we're going to split. We're going to cruise. Are you going to do a shout out, Simon?
I was going to say, have you got an album for next week, Brad?
I'll leave it for the chat.
Not off the top of your head. Okay, no,
I'll leave
that's
it
right.
Green room yeah, we'll talk about it.
Just checking. No, because you might have had something up your sleeve. I don't know. But anyway,
look, it's even better because that way people need to check our Instagram to find out what it is. So
true that.
Hey, up here for thinking.
Down here for dancing.
Around here, romance it. No.
Yeah, so we should say thanks to Derek. Always, Derek. Fantastic. Lots of brilliance. Mission RD100. Thanks, Mission. Fantastic. Albert Arthur Parsnips. Very cool. There's been loads of Tony Bowen as well. Fantastic comments from all you guys, and it's been great to have that. Carl as well. Thanks, Carl. Good to see you, and I hope you're well. And we've got Helene who dropped in as well. Fantastic. And Alexander as well. Kernigan. Fantastic comments and information from you, Alexander. So thank you so much for that. It's been fantastic to have you on the show. 54 Mac Dog as well. Thanks for dropping by. Gret Zeppelin. Hopefully lying down, look at the inside of his eyelids by now. We've sent him off to sleep.
Yeah.
Derek, Alexander. We had Ellen as well, who dropped by as well. Thanks, Ellen, for dropping in. Good to see you. Hope everything's good with you. Great. Jonas Hallberg as well. Jonas. Thanks, Jonas, for again dropping by. Great. Hugh Caldwell as well. Hugh dropped in listening at work. Hope it's going all right, Hugh. Sunday work that shouldn't be voted for. Shouldn't it? Crappy Luxury as well. Crappy dropped in as too, which is fantastic to see you, Crappy. And Jim as well. Of course, Jim, near the beginning. So thanks, Jim, for dropping in too. I think that's everybody. I've got back to the top. Yes, Derek and Jim. Yeah. So thanks everyone for all your comments and information. It's been fantastic as ever. A collaborative effort, with you guys. I think it's fantastic. So take care, and we'll see you next week for something else. Take it away, boss.